Well, my name is Gale Hamby, formerly Gale Perigo, which a lot of you may know me as Perigo. I'm from around here, and I moved to Georgia almost 15 years ago. And
Now has a Georgia accent?
a little bit, not much. I tried. Everybody down there says I have a New York accent. I say, no, New York sounds like this. This is what New York sounds like. In fact, I worked with a girl that was from New Jersey, and she took great pains to tell me one day how all these people from the north, we all have to stick together. And I said, no, no, because you're exactly the kind of Jersey person that I don't even want to be associated with. So there you go. But, and I like Georgia. I think Georgia's a beautiful place to live. It has a really long growing season, and it's really sweet down there. A lot of people, I've been a witch for a long time, a Wiccan priestess or witch, depending. I like the word witch. I use it myself frequently because I like, not for anything maybe so high flown as to say I'm reclaiming the word, but it suits me because that's where I started out. I didn't start out with this as a religious path. I started out with it as a practical path to say, gosh, I don't know that I like the way my life is working a lot, so I think maybe this would give me a little bit of a leg up on the situation. And as time went by, it became a religious step for me, and that to me, that's where I am with it now. And a lot of what this is the book. A lot of where this book is from is religious perspectives, spiritual perspectives for me. And some of the, not experiences so much that I've had with deity, although there are some things in here that I think resonate really personally for me. So this is a big step for me to put this out here, because a lot of this is, people that know me will be able to associate some of this, and people that don't know me, they're going to know me a lot better by the time they get done with this book, because there are some very personal things in here. Some of the pieces are old, from back in 1985. Several of the one chapter here called "Never Again: The Burning" has material from the CD, which some of you I understand have had and played to death, which is a wonderful thing. And I just thank you for out. Thank you. Yeah, well there you go. Now, and it's nice to know that I still, there's parts of it where I kind of go, oh, that was terribly flat right there. But that's just me. I think a lot of artists have that compulsion to notice the flaws in what they do. Now, this, for an example, the gentleman that did the illustration here, his name is Scott Bowden. And he's the brother of a friend of mine that I met on Facebook. And I asked her, I said, do you think Scott would be willing to do an illustration for my book? And I can't pay him anything. And she said, sure, I'll ask him. And this is what he came up with, okay? This is airbrushed. All the detail, yeah, he's an airbrush person. And he gets thousands of dollars for pieces that he's done. And he whipped this up in like a month and let me have it. And when he sent it to us, I said, well, that's great, Scott. I'm going to put it on the front cover. Is that all right with you? And he said, yeah, sure, that's fine. Put it on the front cover. And the next day, Gloria Facebooks me and says, don't make posters out of it. Don't do anything with it. And I said, why? And she says, because Scott hates it and thinks it's horrible. And that's the artist, okay? That's the artist mentality. This is the most beautiful thing I think I've almost ever seen. And yet he would sit there and say, well, this ain't right, this ain't right. So I think that there's some of that with every artist, and there's some of that in here too, that I don't know how people will take some of these pieces. Some of them were written in the dead of night, when I couldn't sleep, and all the emotional stuff was just on the surface. And some of it's very not personal. Some of them are stories that I feel like I've pulled from some other time, some other place maybe, and I hope everybody likes them. And I'm going to read a few things from out of here. Now, a lot of you may be familiar that the title of this book is The Fourth Face of the Goddess. And a lot of you might be familiar with the idea that in religions down through history, there have been a lot of religions that venerate female deity as well as masculine. And a lot of those religions have goddesses in a triple form. There's usually the maiden, who is the young, innocent girl who is just exploring life, like you at 15, or, who's exploring life and hasn't really, she's very adventuresome and very open to new experiences and has a lot of freedom in the way she thinks about the world, and a lot of bravery and courage that common sense and experience haven't beaten out of her. That's the maiden. The mother is the second phase. It can have to do with actual motherhood, but it doesn't have to. It can be women who have chosen to remain childless or who are childless can mother communities, or they can mother business projects, or they can create on many, many levels that don't have anything to do with children. And yet those projects and those interests are nurtured just as fervently as women with children do. And of course, women with children, that's a whole other thing. You never want to step in front of a woman who's protecting her child from anything, because there is no force of nature that is stronger or greater, except possibly a father protecting their children from other things. But I think mothers have a particular gift and power for that. The traditional, the third face of the goddess is the crone, who is the older woman, considered to be very wise, and a lot of time, technically, you can look at women who are beyond the age of childbearing as the crone, but it's women that have reached a certain level of experience and understanding of the world, and traditionally they sit and dispense wisdom and generally tell everybody else how to run their lives. Okay? Think a stereotypical mother-in-law, that kind of an image, although a lot of the archetypes are a lot kinder now than that one. The fourth face of the goddess has to do, now a lot of these three faces are associated with the phases of the moon, okay? So the maiden is associated with the waxing crescent, that little silver crescent that you see. The goddess Diana has a lot to do with that, because she has, the idea of the bow being drawn. The mother goddess is usually associated with the full moon, because that's just all the giving, the best light, and the most. Come on in and sit down if you'd like to. Come on, have a chair. It's all good. There's chairs.
There's a couple up here. We're all set.
Okay.
A lot with the full moon has to do with the glory and the brightness, and in the fullness of her power and her light is the full moon. The waning crescent, which is the third quarter of the moon, comes after that, when it looks as though the light is disappearing. Although if you think about it, the moon, or the goddess, she's always with us in all of her forms. The whole moon is always there. It's just now and again you can't see all of it. And in a way, that's why I think a lot of women have come to be associated with the moon, because she's very changeable. If you look at the changing character of the oceans, that they rise and fall with the energy of the moon, and they rise and fall. Pretty much, there's nothing you can do about it. Time and tide wait for no man or anybody. But a lot of times, that changeability, that adaptability of women, we are always who we are. You may say different factors, different facets of ourselves, depending on who we are and who we're with and what our mood is at the moment, but we're always all here in all of our glory and all of our dark sides, all of our dark sides. Now, there's a fourth phase of the moon, which is the dark moon. If you think of the full moon at the top, and then one of the crescents is the waxing crescent, and one is the waning crescent. That fourth phase is what happens between the waning crescent and the first sign of the new moon. And that's the fourth phase. That's the dark moon. And you can't really see any light from the moon at that time. And that's the hidden phase. And what I have to say about that is in the beginning here. What is the fourth face of the goddess? She's the dark moon. She's the opposite of the full moon. Equal in power, her time falls between the last light of the waning crescent and the first glimmer of the new. No light can be seen from the moon then. she is the hidden phase. As the full moon illuminates, the dark moon gives access to what cannot be seen at other times. She shows us the darkest pieces of ourselves. She shows us the pieces that we might fear to examine in the light. The pieces that we keep hidden away even from our own hearts in the light. The pain and the anger and the darkness that we accrue as we move through our lives. She is the mother of 3 a.m. I don't know if any of the rest of you have those moments. It's at 3 o'clock in the morning when you're awake and you can't sleep and your brain is just full of live rats and you just can't get anything to settle down. That's when the dark mother comes out. And in her peaceful night, we can pull all these ideas and these things. We can pull these out unafraid. There's no one here to judge, and there's no one here to disregard. No one here to tell us to grow up or to move on or to just get over it. There's no one here to tell us to stuff our pain away so that others don't have to watch us work through the things that hurt, because she accepts and she understands. And she holds us in the deepest night and silently keeps us safe while we cry or rage or despair until we pass into some kind of peace. And then she lets us go on with life with a little lighter burden until it's safe to look at these things again. And that's where a lot of the pieces in this book come from, is at 3 a.m. when things just didn't make sense. Things don't make sense. Why? One of the questions that I think people ask of God all the time, or goddess, is why? Why do bad things happen to good people? Okay? And a lot of the Christian faiths or faiths that are more bound by solid books of this is what to do to live a good life, a lot of